Hey guys, I'm Beverly and today I'm going to show you how to glue silicone to fabric. So I'm making Hela's bodysuit from the movie Thor Ragnarok, and her suit has some pretty cool designs on it, and I've decided to make those using silicone. The cool thing about silicone is that it's strong and stretchy, which is going to be really useful for a bodysuit. The challenging thing about silicone is that it doesn't stick to anything but silicone. And since my bodysuit's going to be made with the 4-way stretch fabric, I needed to find a way to get silicone to stick to fabric. So luckily, Smooth On has a product called Silpoxy, which is used to bond silicone to silicone and other materials. It comes in a little tube like this. So after a lot of testing with different fabrics, I finally found a 4-way stretch knit at Joann's that works really well with Silpoxy, all while having a really good weight and a stretch for a bodysuit material. So to get started, you're gonna need some silicone. I have already molded some silicone in some molds that I made already. I'll show you how to do all of that in a different video. I have a couple of different kinds of fabric here because I wanted to do some tests. I have the fabric that I'm going to use for the Hela suit. This is very stretchy, and I have applied my heat transfer vinyl pattern onto it. I have some regular just t-shirt material. And then I have the same fabrics but without the heat transfer vinyl. So I'm wondering if maybe the Silpoxy, hopefully everything will adhere perfectly like I'm hoping, but we'll see. You're going to need some Silpoxy. This is silicone rubber adhesive. It comes in a little tube like this, and I think that there's more than one size. You're going to need a couple of different pencils to help you line up the silicone parts that you're going to be gluing down, and a chip brush and some gloves. So the first thing I'm going to do is to anchor my silicone piece down to the fabric, which is why I've got them placed on these foam pieces. So that's going to help me keep the silicone in place. So I'm just going to put a few pins in here. I want this to be kind of straight. Silicone's pretty floppy, so that's going to help keep that in the right place for me. So now with my pencil, I'm just going to lightly kind of draw around where this should go. This type of pencil can be erased, so don't worry about leaving little marks on your fabric. You want to be kind of careful if you can, but if you do need to erase something, you'll be able to erase it off the fabric. All right, so it's pretty subtle there. Let's see if I can show you. But it's very faint. That's all I really need to help guide me with placing the Silpoxy. Okay, so here we go. So you want to be kind of liberal with the Silpoxy that you're going to apply to the silicone. And the reason for that is because the Silpoxy really needs to get a good grip onto the fabric that's underneath your silicone. Otherwise, that contact is going to be pretty weak. You don't want to skimp on this stuff, but you also don't want to put too much on there because you don't want to have to clean up a lot of Silpoxy off of your fabric. You want to make sure that you don't get any air in this Silpoxy, otherwise it might cure on you, and that will be a big bummer. Okay, so the first method that I'm going to show you how to do is just painting the Silpoxy to the inside of this little mark that we have made. And this mark is a little bit thick for this brush, so I'm going to get a smaller brush. All right, so I have a smaller brush, and now pin down my fabric so it doesn't go anywhere on me. I'm going to paint this Silpoxy on right up to the edges. Silpoxy starts curing in about 15 minutes, so you can kind of take your time with this, but not too much time. So now I'm going to take my silicone piece and I'm going to place it right over where that needs to go. So I like to start on one end and just gently guide the silicone into place. Once you have it in place, you can kind of pat it down a little bit to really make sure that that Silpoxy is coming in contact with the entire silicone piece. You might start to see it kind of oozing out from the sides, which is okay. It's gonna dry, mostly clear, so I don't think you really need to worry about that. So that's gonna start curing in about 15 minutes, so we're gonna leave this alone and we'll come back to it. So we'll set this over here. We'll use the white fabric this time because I wanna see if the Silpoxy is going to make a dark mark on the fabric where it's a little bit wet. All right, so again, I'm gonna use a few pins just to anchor this fabric in place. I'm gonna draw one little line here just to help me see where these are gonna be placed. This time around, instead of painting the Silpoxy directly onto the fabric, I'm gonna paint it directly onto the silicone and then put that in place. We'll see how this goes. So it is a little bit hard to see exactly where the Silpoxy is. I'll make sure the edges are all covered. Okay, and now we're gonna flip this thing over and carefully put this in place. Lining that little line up. Again, you're gonna wanna press this right into the fabric so that it comes in contact with the Silpoxy. So I've got to let the Silpoxy cure for at least 15 minutes before I can start like poking at it. And really the instructions say leave it alone for about an hour. So I should probably leave it alone for about an hour. I've got a lot of other things to do, so I'll check back with this in 1 hour and we'll see what our results are. So the Silpoxy is stuck on here pretty well. I'm not going to pull on it too much because they do say to leave it for 24 hours before it's fully cured. But I can already tell that this is going to stretch really well. And on the edges, as long as the Silpoxy is right flush up against the edges, I don't see any problems with this lifting up. If you do have an edge that looks like it's lifting up, you can just go back in with a little paintbrush and fill that in and let it cure for 24 hours before you start playing around with it again. This one we did to see if the Silpoxy was going to leave a dark mark on the brighter fabric, and it does not. That's about it. It's pretty straightforward. You just need to make sure you do some testing on the fabric that you want to use before you start dipping into this expensive material. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message. I'm going to include the link to the Silpoxy and anything else that I mentioned in the comments below. But I'm really excited about using Silpoxy to help me get the silicone details on Hella's suit because I think it's going to be amazing. Well, thanks for tuning in, you guys, and happy crafting.